All right, welcome back, everybody. It's been 2 weeks. We kept our promise and got back on our old timeline due to popular demand, and even my wife has joined us again. So that's always a trick to get her to join in.
No, not at all.
So what is going on here nowadays? Well, it is definitely springtime. It's getting a lot warmer. The bears are coming out. The weather's trying to improve. So
Things are blooming.
yeah, starting to. People that have allergies are getting allergies.
I know on the last one, I felt my eyes looked all glassy and I kind of thought, what is everybody thinking? And my eyes were watering and I kept sneezing and yeah, much better this time.
Yeah, it is definitely that time of year. So why don't we talk about the market for a moment? If you want to tell us what you've been seeing.
My office, we went over, what had closed in the last 30 days last Monday. And just in Whitefish, there had been 26 sales, so almost a closing a day. Yeah, properties are still moving and selling. I was saying to somebody, I need to ask the title companies, how many of those are cash transactions. For a while there, it was 30 to 40% of all transactions closed were cash. But I don't know if that's still true. So I'll ask and be able to report back next time. But yeah, if it's priced right, we're not seeing lots of
Seems kind of slow in the higher dollar
yeah.
range.
I do think that some of those sellers in the, probably 1.5 and over, they probably a little overpriced, and that's why they're staying on the market longer. I had a $3.1 million listing earlier this year that they didn't want to show it until after the holidays, until after, I think we put it on, or, we listed it right before Christmas, put it on, or allowed showings January 3rd, but it was priced very, very well for the market. And I did receive an offer within probably about a week, but beautiful house, and it was priced to sell. So I think that maybe that's part of the difference, that some, sellers kind of want to still think it's 2020 and 2021, and it's not.
Well, and talking to the gal that we both use or we recommend as a lender, I was talking to her last week, and everybody was expecting the interest rates to come down by now, and obviously they have not, and it sounds like they're not going to for at least another couple months. So that hasn't helped things either. But again, we get this question all the time, or not question, more of a comment that, oh, I'm going to wait till the rates come down. And I get that. But because our inventory is still low, if the rates went back down to 5, or under next week, then you're going to have 10 times the competition as you would right now. So the prices are going to automatically go up because you're going to be getting, much more demand. It's just basic supply and demand again. And so I figured it out for somebody the other day, that, the difference of paying a little bit more now than, how much it's going to go up it's kind of a wash. So anyway, that's one way to look at it. But yeah, another thing we did this past week is Angie had to go down and meet some people in Hamilton. So little preview of what my video is going to be about this on Tuesday. I went down and filmed the town of Hamilton while she was in her meeting. So that was a good little trip. And that what we did learn down there is that they're getting ready, or they're very close to starting shooting Yellowstone again. So they are doing another season. I don't know, I know that annoys a lot of the locals, but um, it sounds like they're already doing pre-production. In fact, well, you can tell the gal you were meeting with had a story about that.
Yeah, a gal in my office in the Hamilton office, they had come to her because they wanted to use her house and the field out in front of her house. And so, yeah, kind of interesting to hear. She was there was one other person in her neighborhood that they were looking at his house as well. So we'll let you know if they end up going with her house and what they end up filming it for. So kind of fun to, yeah, hear her, like they went through her house and, different angles and looking at the field and, what was behind her house. And so kind of fun to just hear her talking about their process.
Well, yeah, and she said that they picked her house. Well, it's between her and her neighbor as to which one they're going to pick, but they picked those two houses because they look the most like they would be in the Midwest. And the particular scene that they're filming is supposedly going to be set in the Midwest, but they didn't want to fly out to Illinois or Iowa or wherever and film a true Midwestern scene. They're they're trying to do everything right in the same area. So and the thing I'm curious about, if they do pick her house, is how much they're going to pay her for rent.
Yeah.
Because I know I had heard that the guy that owns that ranch that they, film everything on is making a fortune from them on paying rent and just the publicity. Obviously, it's a bed and breakfast when they're not filming, so he can charge huge money for all the Yellowstone fans that want to go spend the night and at the ranch, at the Dutton Ranch. So kind of added to the value of that place.
Yeah. And it was kind of, it's always interesting to go from our area, the Flathead Valley, down to Missoula and Hamilton. And, I think just 100 miles, kind of south, they're probably 2 weeks ahead of us spring wise. There were more trees, in bloom and flowers in bloom and that type of thing. So I always find that interesting that just 100 miles makes such a difference.
Yeah, it's funny. And I was just talking to somebody that called the other day about the weather and the climates. And, the Montana has so many different little microclimates, just even in our valley. There's, at the nursery when you go buy a plant and it says it's up to zone 3, or how does they have different zones for where it will grow or where it will survive. And I think in the northern end of the valley, like Columbia Falls, whitefish is zone 3, which is much colder. And then down in Big Fork, right on the lake, it's all the way up to, you can get plants for zone 8. So that's quite a range. Like there's some, like those, we always like those, isn't it that Japanese maple, or there's a flowering one that we always wanted to get, but they said it would not grow up here. But it's either that, the weather, or the deer. Something will kill it.
The deer in whitefish, they're kind of like vermin, rodents. We were looking at our yard yesterday and I was just kind of cleaning everything out now that it's trying to be spring, and we were trying to kind of add up what we've spent in this front little planter bed on different plants that are supposed to be deer resistant, and they're not. And it was a considerable amount of money, at least in my world.
Yeah, you might as well just light that money on fire. These deer, I've even gone to I was at a nursery a few years ago, I think down in Kalispell or maybe Big Fork, and I said, I need something deer resistant. And they're like, oh yeah, we have these plants over here. Where do you live? And I said, whitefish. And they're like, oh yeah, these nothing works in whitefish. Nothing is deer resistant, except you planted those things from your friend that
Allium,
are,
they're basically an onion. I think that's what
yeah,
they're called, allium. And they're kind of cool. They actually look like something that should be on, Here's a Who on Dr. Seuss, but there's the green leaves, and then there's a stem that comes up, and then they get these big purple flowers at the top, but it's basically an onion, so the deer won't eat it. So they won't eat that, they won't eat lavender, and they don't eat my peony. But everything else they seem to, and that other flower that's kind of taken over that has spread into the actual yard.
the yarrow.
Yarrow, yeah.
Yeah.
So there are a few things, but it's yeah, they eat everything.
All right. And then another thing you guys were asking for last time that we are bringing back is I pulled up some of the police reports so we can do a few of those. And we were wondering before if you guys want to comment. Angie actually asked me this before we got on the air about wondering if we're the only area where the paper prints these things, because I know the papers here in the valley, they've kind of, are having a lot of fun with these, and they make them, not that they're not funny, but the way they write them is, I can't believe that that's actually the way the call came in, but maybe it is. I don't know. Anyway, so let us know if you guys have these down in wherever you are watching from. But the first one is a woman who said she worked for the FBI. So she called the police, said she worked for the FBI, thought someone was blocking her phone to stop her from giving her employer updates. I kind of find it hard to believe if she's working for the FBI that she would call the local police. I think she'd have a little more pull than that. And then someone reported a large boulder half the size of a small car was blocking a road. It's a good sized rock. A woman accused the sheriff's department of freezing her car so her keys wouldn't work. Not sure how they would do that.
Right. Was it really the key that wouldn't work?
A Kalispell woman was concerned that her neighbors weren't picking up their dog's poop in their own backyard. So you got to love when your neighbor's checking up on you. But I guess you got to hope your neighbor is not the governor of South Dakota.
Right.
Be a bad ending for your dogs. An apartment resident was annoyed by how loud some neighboring kids were during their Nerf gun war. And finally, this is the grand finale. A man visited a pharmacy to ask if the pharmacist could test the clear plastic bag of probiotic he'd bought on the street to see what it was. There's so many things wrong with that. I don't even know where to. So, yeah, I've been collecting these to put in my newsletter. If you guys haven't subscribed and want to subscribe, I started doing a newsletter, and you can find the info for it down in the show notes and sign up. And it's a weekly thing, and I always throw in a police report for the week that I find humorous. So one other thing before we get to the questions, and now that I'm scrolling through the questions, I see somebody brought it up. So the NAR ruling, I'm going to have Angie talk about it a little bit for a second and just kind of give you what is going to change. And a lot of the things that you've been reading in the paper has been sensationalized, and the whole fake news thing or exaggerated news is in order to get people to click on something has been going nuts, and a lot of the headlines were complete falsehoods. But anyway, if you want to start discussing that for a second.
The question is, did you cover the recent NAR ruling decision? If not, what do you see happening before July? Well, as of right now, until that the judges or the ruling goes into full effect, which is, I've heard July. I've also heard or seen that it might be more August instead. Nothing has changed right now. We can, when I take a listing, we still talk to the seller about, do you want to offer a buyer's agent commission? In Montana, it's always negotiable. And I think in all states, it's always been negotiable. And so if if a seller is offering a total 5% commission, then, you can split it with the buyer's agent, and that's what the seller is offering the buyer's agent, the seller and the broker. So 2.5 and 2.5. But again, commission is always negotiable. And so if everything goes forward, what will change is that, not much will change, but yes, in a way. So buyer's agents will have to have a buyer's agent compensation form filled out with a prospective buyer before they even put them in the car, which, how we've typically handled it is, you come to us and say, hey, help me find a house. Sure. But you want to make sure that the relationship, that you like me and that I'm going to work hard for you and that I'm going to answer all of your questions. And so then we do eventually sign that, but that's going to have to be agreed upon right up front. And then they can't list the buyer's agent compensation amount on MLS anymore if this goes through. That doesn't mean that a buyer's agent won't get paid. They can still be paid by a seller, and the seller's broker's office. But again, it's negotiable, just like it always has been. So it'll be, it's been interesting to watch, and if you are, if you have a good buyer's agent, that's what you want. That's the whole reason that they split, and had buyer's agent compensation, is because until the mid 90s, at least in Montana, it was only sellers representation. And so, as a buyer's agent, you want somebody in your corner. You want somebody that is going to double check all of the information. Okay, is the propane tank leased? Owned, the amount is prorated at the end. What's in the area? What do you know about an area as your buyer's agent? So a buyer's agent can be very, very helpful, especially in negotiating what's right for you, not for the seller. So numerous ways to look at it, and we'll see where it all goes.
Well, my conspiracy theory is that this lawyer that brought the lawsuit, I don't know if you told me or I read it, but before all of this, what was it, 75% of lawsuits came from dual agency?
Yep.
Well, where do you think lawyers make all their money? They make all their money on lawsuits. So and dual agency is when, the one agent is representing both sides, which is kind of hard to be fair. You can do it, but it's very easy to get in trouble. And that's why all the lawsuits stem from that. So now with this thing that they're trying to, basically the lawyer that did this whole lawsuit came right out and said that he doesn't think you need a buyer's agent. And why would you need a buyer's agent when you have Zillow, was his direct quote, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But anyway, that's his theory, is that you don't need a buyer's agent. Well, what does that do? Then that means the listing agent's going to be the dual agent on every single deal. Well, that's just going to be a ton more lawsuits and a ton more money for the lawyers. So, you can think about it how you want. You can think that people get paid too much, whatever you want to think, but buyer's agents do provide a service, and most of my business is working with buyers. So I'm kind of a little irritated with this lawsuit because they're coming directly for 90% of my business. And it's kind of annoying to see all these newspaper articles and where they're, the headline, like one of the CNN headlines I remember right after the lawsuit was, sellers, or nobody has to pay a commission anymore. And the price of houses are going to come way down because there won't be any more commissions. Well, that's total BS. But anyway, like I said, that's the newspapers trying to get people to click on their articles. So
right, and home prices are supply and demand, and that's part of what we're still seeing in our area because we have still a limited supply of product in any given price point. There's still quite a bit of demand, which has kept the prices higher than maybe some of the other areas. Prices have softened maybe a little bit, but I would almost say that if you see something that's been on the market for a while, it's probably just been priced too high regardless. And so it's supply and demand, and we still have a very limited supply of inventory in our area right now.
Well, and the other thing that's coming out of this that people don't think about, there's always, what's the saying? There's always unknown consequences. And one of the things that this lawyer forgot to mention is, what this is going to do if nothing is changed, which I'm sure a lot of this stuff will be changed as we move along. Like for VA buyers, for our veterans, when they use a VA loan, they're not allowed you can't do the credit back on VA loans, for this. And so basically a VA guy would have to pay out of his own pocket if he wanted representation, which again, like, the lawyer's like, oh, you have Zillow. Well, Zillow doesn't tell you what the well depths in the area are. Zillow doesn't ask you, make you ask about all the different little idiosyncrasies of each neighborhood or each subdivision or the HOAs or, the things that the seller, if he's trying to, sell his house, he may not tell you, that something happened down the street, whatever it may be. And if you have a buyer's agent that's digging in and trying to, help you out on these things, it could save you a lot of money or, make you question the house you're looking at.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see. It was supposed to happen in July, and now it's already been pushed back until August now, I've heard. So who knows when and if any of this stuff will come to fruition.
And it sounds like it will, some of it. But again, it doesn't mean that buyer's agents are completely going away. And a good buyer's agent that's truly a professional and knows their market is a benefit, in my opinion.
Especially if you're moving somewhere you've never been.
Yeah.
Whether it's here or, Florida, wherever, like you can use Zillow. Well, sure, you can use Zillow, but like the video I just did the other day, they may not tell you that there's power lines in the backyard or a gravel pit that borders the property, because they're not going to show that in the pictures. And then you fly out there or you buy it, because it looked great on Zillow. And these are the kind of things that you can get in trouble with, and especially if you're not from the area, or there's things in different areas that only a local person is going to know about. And again, if it's a bad thing or maybe not the most positive thing, the seller sure isn't going to
Highlight that.
tell you, yeah, I wouldn't buy my house because of this down the street or because of this rule in our covenants or so. Anyway, I guess we can quit
Well,
rambling about that.
on to another controversial, Flathead Lake is low. Do you think it will be back to full by Memorial Weekend? Well,
I had heard that, well, they claim it's going to be,
Oh, do they?
but I don't know. They're, again, because it's an election year, all the Congress people are jumping on board and trying to fix it, but it's such a cluster. There's so many federal agencies involved with all of that yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out this year. And we did not, as far as lake levels, our snowpack was very low this year, so there's not going to be as much water. And I think the biggest issue with this particular dam on Flathead Lake is that, and this is what I've read and been told, is that the people that run the dam had sold a bunch of the power that they generate out of state. So they have to let water out to turn the turbines to make the power that they've sold. So they can't, it's a mess is what it is. Especially with a low snow winter. I don't know how you just fix that.
I don't know either. Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. Another good question. Oh, what's your best guess as to when
put them up on the screen so I can.
You're putting them up on the screen?
No, sorry, little mid-show production meeting. If you run your mouse over the comment, it'll say show, and then you can click on it and it'll go up on the screen. No?
It's not allowing me to do that.
You don't have that power?
I don't have that power. Only you do.
Well, then which one is it?
What's your best guess as to when Going to the Sun Road will be open this year?
Oh, there it is. Well, in last week's newsletter, I put the news article in the newsletter that I do an article every week, and they were a mile from the top. So they're making good progress, and it's the beginning of May. But it's all, they get to, even when they get to Logan Pass, they still have that, they call it the Big Drift. And that's right around the corner from Logan Pass on the other side. And it's that 80-foot, it's usually 80 feet deep that they got to dig through. So that's always the last thing they have to clear out. But if they're already a mile from the top, I'm guessing they'll get pretty close to that by the end of the week. And then I don't know.
But I do know that they received quite a bit of snow up there last week because of the rain that we had, which pushed it back a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. If things keep going right, I was looking at the Weather Channel earlier today, and it said it's supposed to get nice. We have like 3 days of rain right now, and then it's supposed to be nice. So I guess if the weather holds, I would think it'd be open by the beginning mid-June pretty easily. But the other thing that happens a lot too, and it's different every year, is they always do construction on that road every year. They're doing something. And sometimes even though that, you can ride your bike all the way to the top and, all the way up and over if you want. Some years it's still not open because they're doing some construction work during the week and they want a little extra time before all the traffic hits. So,
well, and I would guess it also depends on, all the different lodges and having the employees to, like, even Lake McDonald Lodge, because that one's so accessible, it would seem like they would need to say, by June 12th, we'll be fully employed or have all the employees here to work. I don't know if that plays into their decision at all.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a government run entity, so that it's kind of a cluster. You can be confident in that. What's next?
Are you asking me?
I was. I thought you were going to pull up these questions for me, but I guess not.
Well, I can. You just didn't like me reading them. My son is working in Hamilton. He has a 5-year contract. He's looking for a house with property. Yeah, Hamilton's a totally different market than our market up here. But I believe that they're running into some of the same issues, just low inventory. And so, yeah, I mean, definitely call me if he needs help, and we can certainly put him in touch with somebody that can help him find what he's looking for.
Yep. What is happening in Southwest Montana as far as real estate goes? I think we're pretty, and when you say Southwest, I guess that's the Dillon area would be my guess. Yeah, I think pretty much all around the state, we're kind of in the same boat. It's definitely slowed down since the COVID rush. We're starting to get more and more houses on the market because I think a lot of those people that did move here, and we saw this long before the COVID thing, but it's almost like a 2-year thing where people will come up here, they'll visit in July, go to the park, and the weather is, I've always said, the weather here in July is like the best weather you can possibly have anywhere on the planet. It's, upper 70s, low 80s, no humidity. It's sunny every day. It's perfect. And it's usually before any smoke shows up from fires. So July is beautiful. So all these people visit out here in July. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to move there. That place is awesome. And they don't think about what it's like in January. And so the first winter, they make it through like, God, it's dark and, a lot of snow and I don't know about this. And, and then they stick it out. Then the next summer rolls around. They're like, oh, this is great. And we love it here. And then the second winter is when you see people tapping out. Like, all right, I'm done. It's going to be like this every year. I'm out. And so now we're kind of, I would bet that a lot of the new listings that we're getting right now are some of those people, along with the normal people that have to sell for work or whatever anyway.
Yeah.
So how would a family from the East Coast relocate to Montana? I haven't really looked into it because of the distance. It's, it's just like moving anywhere. The timing thing, the thing that we consult, or I consult people all the time, is if you're selling a place back east or wherever, the best strategy is to find a rental here and then sell your house. Because if you're trying to time it where you sell your house and then buy a house here at the same time, it's almost it takes a miracle to get the timing right, because there's so many things that go into a real estate deal, so many moving parts. And if one of them on either of the deals goes wrong or there's a delay, then it just throws everything into chaos. So if you can put your house on the market back east, find a rental out here for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, then when your house closes, you have all that money. There's no pressure like, oh my God, I got to put in an offer on a place here. And then if it disappears, there's 100 things that could go wrong. So if you have a rental, that gives you a little bit of breathing room. Then you can come up here, get your stuff moved. The con of that is obviously you're kind of moving twice once you find a house, but the pressure that you won't be feeling, I think, makes it a good idea. Would you agree?
I do. Yeah. I mean, you can make it happen without renting, but there's some stress involved for sure.
Yeah. And Dave says, in a for sale by owner situation, can we hire you folks to make sure everything is on the up and up? Paperwork, title, transfer, how would that work? Same thing. If we're representing you, we would, usually people, the way it's been is these for sale by owners, if we bring them an offer, they agree, to cover our commission. And we would look into that right up front and work out a deal with you or them or however we want to work it out. But yeah, we do that all the time. So that is not an odd question or an odd situation. Here we go. The Say Hey Kid. Weather is starting to get nice. How about doing a video showing pickleball courts in Big Fork, Kalispell, and Whitefish? There you go. We could show Angie playing pickleball and put that on video.
Yeah, getting my butt kicked.
Angie's been giving me crap. We went down to the desert this winter and I played some pickleball, and I have to say that some of those old ladies down there are pretty damn good. And I was thanking the Lord that none of my hockey buddies were watching me get smoked by these old ladies in pickleball. But in my defense, I'd never played tennis growing up, so I think I'm at a big disadvantage where all those people down there, they grew up in the warm weather and you can play tennis year round. And I know this sounds like I'm making excuses, but I'm going with it. Even Angie, who also played, was getting spanked by these women as well. And she, she's never going to tell you this, but she came in third place in the state of Montana in high school in tennis. So she was.
Yeah, and I haven't played since, and that was a couple of years ago.
What do you mean? I thought that was just, a few years ago.
Right.
Oh, here's our Minnesota friend. Mike is back. Vikings sign a quarterback and go Timberwolves. Here we go. I'm having a hard time. I mean, it's cool that the Timberwolves are doing so well, but they have been so bad, like since the day they were born. It's kind of crazy that suddenly they're dominant. So yeah, go Wolves. John, hey John, we were grateful to have Will as our agent. That was a good deal, and John can verify that there were things that came up that he was from out of town that he would not have known about, or didn't know about, because why would he, being from out of town, that we were able to help him work through, and it was all good. And then Mike, I was for the most part my agent. Yeah, unfortunately, there are some bad agents out there, and they give us all a bad name. So,
sorry for that.
Yeah, Dave, do you know what is going on across the street from MLS? Blah blah blah. Is that a new subdivision or gravel pit? I don't. Do you have?
Yeah, I pulled it up.
Oh.
And it's out. Do you remember that red house that's right along like the straight stretch going up to Foy's Lake? And it's on the left as you're going towards Foy's Lake. I think that's where this is and what he's talking about. I don't know. I don't know that it would be a new gravel pit since there's a gravel pit directly across the street. It's across from that newer subdivision, not newer. I mean, it's been there.
Oh, is it that big red house?
Yeah, on the left.
Oh, I actually showed that place a few years ago.
Yeah.
So that, in fact, if you go back to my video, Dave, that I just did 2 weeks ago, I think, I believe, let me check here on my phone real quick. I believe that was what you're talking about, was a gravel pit, and it was used for when they built the bypass, but now they're turning it into a subdivision. And I believe that, why can't I find it here? Oh, here it is. My thumbnail, my picture for that video is standing right in that. The huge properties video. Yeah, that's actually standing up there where they're starting to put in the infrastructure. And that whole area is right across from where that listing is that you're talking about. So thank you for pulling that up. I would not have known what that number was. Let's see. Can you do a future video on the Sioux Falls community markets they do on Thursday? Possibly. We have not been to that one. They've been having some local politics go on with that particular farmers market. They had it at a place called the Co-op for a long time, and then I don't know the whole story or the true story. You hear both sides, and it had something to do with the lease and what they were paying, and somebody else was signing a lease. So I don't know. And now I just noticed they moved it. If you're familiar with Sioux Falls, it's over on that, I think it's called Veterans Road, isn't that cuts back kind of at an angle by the railroad tracks there.
Yeah.
And it's in that open space right there. I saw a trailer and a sign that they've moved it over there. So, but yeah, I have nothing bad to say about it. I just know that they've been, the local politics have been affecting the Columbia Falls market. Felix, nothing but dry in Lewis and Clark. Hardly any precipitation, but lots of spraying in the skies constantly. Huh. All right. Let's see. Mike Shaw, I have a nephew that is homesteading some property in the foothills of the Mission Mountains. It's a ton of work developing the land. What advice do you have for folks looking into homesteading? You know, I always get questions on homesteading, and I get various, there's no specific definition of that. Is that like living off grid? Is that just buying a bare piece of land and building a log cabin? I have questions, but I guess my advice would be is definitely check into the area. The biggest thing you run into with these off-grid properties are whether or not you can get in and out of there in the winter. A lot of these things are, a lot of these properties are really cheap. I kind of talked about this in my last video, that you see these properties for way under what you think the market is, and there's usually a reason for it, and it has to do with access and how steep it is, and 100 different things. So my advice, I guess, would be do your homework, and again, where a good buyer's agent would come in to make sure you're thinking about everything you need to think about. If you ever are planning on drilling a well up there, how deep it's going to be in that area. There's numerous things to look into. So
I would say one of the biggest things right now is fire insurance. Depending on where you are, it's kind of becoming a little bit of an issue in our area. Just making sure that in your buy sell, or when you make an offer, that you leave enough time to make sure that you can obtain fire insurance that fits in your budget. It's insurance all across the US right now is the thing.
I think I talked about that in my last video, or in our last live video, that I did what I thought was a great video on insurance with all these experts, and we went out and toured properties and talked about all the different things the insurance companies look at, and nobody watched it. I don't know if people are bored or whatever, but like Angie said, if you're going to buy out here and you're going to buy out a ways, that is definitely a huge thing that you want to check into. And might I say, that isn't on Zillow either. John, why do you think, or what explains there being so many gravel pits in the valley? I've wondered that myself. Angie, being a true local, do you have any idea?
I don't know. I mean, I know that for the longest time they used to, during the winter, they graveled the roads. I don't know if that had anything to do with gravel pits, or
Well, I think one of the things is that we have, it's the right environment. We have gravel. So,
yeah.
your friend that owns the rock company. They ship that stuff all over the country.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of that gravel gets hauled out of here too.
Yeah.
So
I bet you're right. Yeah.
there's a reason these are called the Rocky Mountains, we've learned every time we've tried to dig a hole. So I would say that's probably most of it. And, like that huge one that we were just talking about across from that listing, they need it to build all these new roads that, all our growth we're having. So that's my 2 cents.
That's all we've got.
And John's got all kinds of questions. What do you know about the housing being built at the old aluminum plant? What I know is that I believe that that's down the road quite a ways. They still have to figure out the whole Superfund and cleaning up that site, because they're not going to start building houses on top of, all of that stuff that's in the ground. So I think those houses are, yes, that developer bought the land or made an offer on the land, but it's totally dependent on, what they can do in the future. And they're not going to put people's health in danger by just throwing up houses on top of that land.
No.
So, do you ever run into Hillary? Who's Hillary?
Right. Hillary who?
Do you know Hillary?
That girl that, I think she's in real estate.
Yeah.
We see Hillary all the time. Talk to her almost daily. Hillary and our daughter have a relationship as well, and we know her family, and so yes, we see Hillary a lot. She's doing very, very well, happily married, and yeah,
she wants me to thank all of you, whoever voted for her in the thing, and they'll announce if she won or not in a few weeks. But if any of you voted for her, she told me to say thank you. Gordon, has any group come forward to save the mill near Seeley Lake? I don't know. I heard that somebody was talking about it, but I don't know if that went through or not. Have you heard?
I haven't heard. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Sorry. We should know these things. Dave, is there a town or area of Montana that's about 10 years behind Kalispell as far as growth, prices, population? Any undiscovered towns or areas come to mind? This is where, you get in trouble with the locals like Angie if you start giving away all the secrets.
The crystal ball.
Now, there's actually, the areas that I've noticed, and I've never even been to some of these areas. If you look at a map, and everyone jokes about, or, not jokes, but the east side of the mountains is pretty harsh winters and very, out on the prairie. But there are a couple little mountain ranges out in the middle of the state. And there's that, I forget, I mentioned one of those areas in one of my videos, and I was kind of researching it, looking at it at Google Maps, and I can't remember the little towns, but it's in central Montana. And I would think little areas like that would be cool. But yeah, again, a lot of people, they want the Montana experience. They want the big ranch. They want, all this land, but they also want to be able to go to Costco in 10 minutes. And the problem you have, or, find an airport or a Home Depot or whatever. And the problem you have in some of those areas is that they're so far out, you're driving quite a ways. One of those areas is, I've had people ask me about lots, and it goes to what we were talking about earlier about the homesteading and roads and access. There's a little town called Helmville that's in between here and Helena, and it's beautiful out there, but you're an hour and a half from Helena, you're an hour and a half from Missoula, and you're an hour and a half from our valley. So if you ever want anything, in the little store that they have in Helmville is, you know, there's not much.
Milk and white bread.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the other areas are like that I always think of are kind of big timber and like Lewistown and some of those areas that still very, very pretty. But yeah, you aren't close to anything. It's even big timber, either going Billings or Bozeman, it's a little bit of a haul. You're not just running 15 minutes down to the grocery store. I mean, they have grocery stores there, but if you want a Costco or a big box store type of thing.
Well, and this Rosie asked, how big of a town is Polson? If you live there, do you have to drive into Kalispell or down to Missoula to get necessities? No, Polson's a good sized town. There's a big hospital there. There's a big Walmart and they have all the stores. They don't have Costco or Home Depot, but they have, there's plenty of grocery stores and all of that. But yeah, if you want to go to Costco or whatever, you'd have to go up to Kalispell or down to Missoula.
And I'm not sure that I completely agree with you about Polson being a big town. I just pulled up the population, 5,478 as of 2022.
Really?
Yeah.
Seems low.
Yeah, and maybe that's just because
well, it's a big town compared to Polbridge.
Well, everything, put everything into perspective. And that may just be full-time residents, would be my guess.
Yeah, it seems a lot bigger than 5,000 people, but whatever. I don't know. Who knows? Gordon made the comment. He was talking about the insurance video. I guess he watched the video and his son just had his 50 acres parked out, which is a very good idea. And then Rocky Mountain guy, Lincoln. Yeah, you can go buy the Unabomber's old property. Let's see. Has Hollywood contacted you about filming a horror movie in that creepy town north of Glasgow? They have not, but that was weird. God, and I just kind of, like I said, I'm always looking for things to video and ideas and new ideas. And it's been 4 years now. I've been putting out these videos every week and I have yet to miss a week, patting myself on the back a little bit, but yeah, it's hard to come up, with ideas all the time. And I was headed out to Western North Dakota to meet a buddy for the weekend to play golf out there. And I was trying to figure out what I could film because there's not a lot out on the east side. And I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but I stumbled upon that town, or somebody had written an article or something about it. And I was like, hey, it's only 12 miles north of the highway. I'm going to be on. It's not that far out of the way. I'll go check it out. And you obviously watched the video, but the weather that day was perfect for it because there was real low clouds, kind of misty, and it looked the part of being a creepy town. So it worked out good. It'd be weird to go there on a bright, sunny summer day and see what it was like. But yeah, it is a weird place. But very affordable homes there if you're looking to move.
But get a buyer's agent so you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, I have an ex-stepsister who lives in Big Timber. You've been to Big Timber, haven't you?
I have. Big Timber's it's very pretty.
Dave, are you going to travel to Salt Lake City to watch the NHL or still stick to Calgary? If I had a choice, I would definitely pick Calgary. Calgary's a great town if you've never been there. I've said this ever since we go up there quite a bit. We have some friends up that live north of there. They live in Red Deer, so we go through Calgary to get to their place. But of all the big cities I've been to in North America, I would have to say Calgary is the nicest big city. It's clean. They don't have much crime. It's a good town. And also it's only 4 hours from here, where Salt Lake is 9.5. So I'm sure at some point, we'll be in Salt Lake and I'll go to a game, but Calgary is still the much closer option for NHL hockey. And with that, we have reached the end of the questions. As much as I'd like to sit and talk about hockey, Angie's starting to fall asleep. You had to hear about my hockey tournament I played in all weekend, so she's hockeyed out. But thank you for tuning in. And if you guys have any questions, don't forget, sign up for our newsletter if you want that. It's in the notes. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It helps us out a ton. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.